Amazon MGM Studios is back for more pain. They released their first trailer for The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power Season 2. It is already being downvoted to oblivion, and it only has less than 6 million views, and there's almost 380,000 downvotes or something around there. People are absolutely torching this video, and we are going to be joined by Lord of the Rings expert Jonathan Watson, who runs theonering.com and has been going over all of the changes that the Rings of Power season 1 did compared to Tolkien's work, and he is joining us to break down this trailer. So we are glad to have Jonathan joining us. How are you doing, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me, John.
All right, let's just jump right into this here. And look at this trailer. Obviously, we are starting with the opening scene here of how the show ends with Sauron looking out into Mordor, the newly formed Mordor created by a dam being unlocked, broken. And
the worst possible creation of a volcano in the history of mankind. It just doesn't work. Yeah, steamy water creates a volcano.
That is what they are opening with, to remind us of how this is how they created Mordor instead of the ravages of the first age.
It's amazing that they're so tone deaf. They don't even like that whole idea was totally fine with them, and that's what they're going to start with right here. I mean, they have to go to Mordor, right? That's where it ends. But yeah, it's what's funny is that, like, before we get into the details, the whole of the trailer, it doesn't tell us anything about what's going to happen in the show other than Sauron's back, right? And that's all we really get. There's no these are the intrigues and things like that. I watched the Game of Thrones or the House of the Dragon trailer after watching this, and the difference between like how the Game of Thrones trailer, the House of Dragon trailer sets you up for the show versus this is so dramatic. Like it actually like goes through, here are the families, here are the houses, this is the way they're going to fight. I don't accept that you're the king. I don't accept that you're the king. And you understand that. And finally, when they say there's going to be war, that's when it gets into this whole the shots of battles between dragons and horses and things like that. Whereas this trailer, it just sort of meanders around, and like Sauron's this squishy evil guy, and I don't know, just
it's a bunch of still shots that they smash together and put a score on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it is.
Right?
Yeah. These are the next shots we finished. Here you go, guys.
So here, so we get this like shot of Mordor. We get the little Prime Video logo here. Still going. Oh, look, there's more Sauron. And look, he is kind of got a little teary-eyed there.
Yeah. As we like to call him, Halbro. He's the
Halbro. I like that.
He's the sturfiest evil guy.
But again, like you said, it doesn't really tell us anything. Who knows why he's teary-eyed here? And then we like hard transition to our dwarf friend here.
Evil's back,
pointing at himself, and then he fades away almost immediately. And then we get this Venom.
Yeah. This is a point of debate right now. It's something moving in an anthropomorphic way. It feels vaguely human-like, and what it seems like is it's a version of Sauron transforming himself, likely into the elfy guy, or maybe into something else. I could be completely wrong, but their idea
transforming himself. You mean putting a wig on and adding some pointy ears?
Yeah, that's right. They raided the Star Trek Romulan special effects booth and grabbed the long hair and the pointy ears. And well, I guess Romulans didn't have long hair, but maybe some of them did. The bad guys, the Tal Shiar. Boy, am I showing my Star Trek bona fides here? Anyway, yeah. So this is this is not what Sauron is. Sauron's not a shapeshifter. Going back to Star Trek, he's not a shapeshifter like you saw in Deep Space Nine. He's not Venom. He is a guy who takes on a form and can do it, but there's a limitation to that. They're making him into some supernatural Ubermensch kind of guy who can do whatever he wants to infiltrate things, and that's not what he is. He's far more subversive in that way, right? It takes him in. So let's go to the Silmarillion. It takes him years, decades in order to convert the Numenorians onto his side. It takes a long time for him to actually like get into Eregion and Ost-Nethil and manipulate the crafters there to make the rings, things like that. But here it just happens in a couple months, a couple of days.
It also takes him years after he is kind of wiped out by the flood, right? with Numenor too, where he has to like
where he
back to
comes
Mordor
back.
and rebuild back there. That takes him.
Yeah, it's a long time, right? And
centuries.
Tolkien, and again, they're compressing probably more than 1,000 years down into a couple of seasons here,
which has always been a massive mistake.
Yeah, you can't do that. I mean, Tolkien set it up. I love going back to the quote that he says, which Tolkien said, that points out how detail oriented it was. In the letter, he's trying to create the map for Middle Earth, and he just says this map is hell because it's hell because he couldn't make it work right, and so he had to keep manipulating his story, manipulating the map to make sure it fits and all that sort of stuff. So the details matter, and here they're squishing 1,000 years into it, so clearly the details don't matter to them.
And I also like how you brought up House of the Dragon, because they basically were like, oh, you guys don't want to change actors? Well, we're going to do that in the first season. They basically blew up the entire argument as to why they were compressing everything.
Yeah,
because we have to keep our actors. And Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon is like, no, we are just going to recast.
we just do it in the middle of the season. We'll accept it as long as the story's good, right? We'll accept it, but that you have to have that baseline. You have to have that foundation before you're actually going to do that. But no, they can't do that.
Right, exactly. I mean, Tolkien talks about that on Fairy Stories. If you have consistent rules and you stay true to those rules within the universe, people will immerse themselves in the world. That is the mark of a true sub-creator.
Yeah, well put. Well put.
So we got this little thing here, and this is kind of what you're talking about. There's like an arm kind of reaching out here, to like grab you.
And just to point out, there's nothing I can point to in Middle Earth that Tolkien wrote that actually references something like this. Just so we know.
Right, and then this is like, I don't even know what this is. This is like the Avengers shot, because we got this. They circle around them, right? You get Galadriel, and then we circle around.
They circle around with, like, the flourishes of the knife and the swords, and it's just
it's literally the Avengers shot from the first Avengers with Hulk and Cap and everyone. The one thing I did say is like, oh, Elrond, he actually can use a sword. Who knew?
Yeah,
he's actually a warrior.
Yeah, the guy who was actually the general, the commander of armies in Middle Earth, is now relegated to being a subservient, like little footman to Galadriel.
Yeah, the guy who's probably going to play a huge role, at least from what all the rumors say, that we're going to see a big battle at the end of the season over at Rhuidean. He actually kind of brings his army in late and kind of confronts Sauron's army there, but then has to like flee back to Rivendell, right?
Yes. But he's the one that helps lead the armies, not Galadriel. I mean, that's what we're to take away from this.
Yes. But since we didn't see him actually being shown as a warrior, they have to do that now, right?
He got off of his architectural drafting table since they promoted him as a politician architect. Now he's a politician architect, swordsy guy.
Yeah. So we got the flourish, and it's clearly like just, I mean, we're at like at least 2 scenes now that are like ripped off from
other
maybe
films,
not Marvel Cinematic Universe, but Marvel movies. Venom.
They're trying to make them into superheroes because they don't know what they're doing. They just everything's lifting from something else in a poor fashion.
They also don't realize that like the MCU is pretty much dead. It's out of the zeitgeist now too. Yeah. And then who even knows what this is? Butterflies.
This is one of those
or no, they're moths. Are they?
Yeah, those are the Gandalf moths that happen at the end. I don't know if you saw. I don't expect anybody to actually have watched the Rings of Power, so I don't know if you saw when Gandalf defeated those 3 androgynous witchy things that they never actually named in the Rings of Power. They were blasted into a million moths. So I guess that's what's going on here. This is probably that same sort of like conspicuously androgynous characters that have something to do with Sauron that they never explained.
Yeah, they're the ones who are hunting the stranger, which you're calling Gandalf, right?
Oh yeah, he's Gandalf. Yeah, no, I don't know. Is that even? I don't know. I don't know anybody who's debating that at this point anymore. He's, he says at the end, when you it smells better this way. You got to follow your nose. That happens in the last episode of the Rings of Power, and so we know that's Gandalf. They're
the only thing I could see is like they think everyone thinks that, so they're going to change it. Like that might have been their original idea, but because now everyone's figured it out, they'll be like, no, it wasn't really good.
Yeah, we're probably right.
So here's like, this looks like the Mummy to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
The sand from the Mummy. Remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We just watched that with my kids like a month ago. Yeah, it's bad. Okay, I don't even know. See, all these scenes are so disconnected. It's not telling a
Yeah,
story. A trailer is meant to tell a story, but you go from the moths and some mausoleum or something, and then now into a Little
Snake
Shop of
Works.
Horrors, Audrey 2, kind of
Yeah.
like the tendrils coming out. What is how does this work together? And they had an opportunity to tell a story with the trailer, and they just didn't do it. Maybe it's because they don't
They
have a
don't have a
story.
good story to tell. Yeah, we're on the same page there.
Here are the migrant orcs who are driven out of the Southlands in order to find better jobs in a region.
But the Southlands are Mordor now, right?
Oh no, yeah.
So where are they going?
No,
What's
they're
going on here?
they're going towards. They're going to attack
This is them
Ostenethal
attacking.
region. Yeah, this is them
Yeah.
attacking. This is Celebrimbor. Celebrimbor, I'm guessing, gets captured by the end. In Tolkien's world, in Tolkien's writing, he was tortured by Sauron. He revealed the locations of all the rings except for the 3 because of that. So he's got to have a part to play. He's such an underwhelming character too. The guy who plays him, he's so mealy mouthed and bland that I can't imagine that we're going to care a whole lot when he does get captured.
I think a lot of that's direction. I mean, just the whole show is pretty bad, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, because it's crazy. Because I mean, they're just watering down a lot of these like interesting stories. I mean, he does kind of have this heroic turn. He realizes what's happening. He realizes he's been duped, and then he does kind of lead kind of like a last stand. And unfortunately for him, it was too late, too little, too late, and he basically is punished for his sins of cooperating with evil.
Yeah, right,
and brutally punished too.
Same
So
scene. It looks like.
Yeah, he's whatever he's seeing here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you think this is the scene where he's like, "Oh, this is actually the One Ring"? He's seeing like that he's figuring it out. Maybe they're gonna do something like that.
I don't know. It's a little too hard to tell, but there's a body in that whiteness there, in that dark, in that highlight. So maybe it's during the attack right before he gets captured, and it's Sauron coming to get him. I just hope that they do what Tolkien said, which is they hung his body on a banner and paraded him around. So make it brutal, make it like
Yes.
Tolkien actually wrote it.
We'll did see. I mean, Charlotte Brandstrom did say, one of the directors did say that it is going to get darker, but I don't know. I think the last season showed they didn't have any courage to do anything like that. And Tolkien's very clear that the Second Age is misery.
Or as he likes to say, the entire history of Middle Earth is a long defeat, or even our world is a long defeat until a final catastrophe at the end.
Yes, there's criticisms of that.
Yeah, we're getting too philosophical here. Let's move on. All right, wigs and ears, like you said, wigs and ears. You got if you do anything, for those of you who are watching who haven't watched a trailer, don't watch a trailer. Read the comments on the trailer.
Yes.
About all the people who came here for the wig, and it's glorious. So you'll get a good laugh out of it.
Again, this is just another kind of scene that's just chopped together. It doesn't really tell you anything. We go from Celebrimbor to Sauron here, and then obviously something is happening, and he's like just walking away. He clearly did something.
Everyone's rushing around him. He's the one guy who's calm. Yeah, it's a trope. It's a visual trope for a superhero type of film.
Again, I'm just waiting for the explosion in the background, right?
I'm sure it's definitely coming. The first catapult, because he's opened the doors for all the orcs to come in because he's infiltrated it in the span of a couple months.
This is probably the prettiest shot of the trailer.
I don't know what's going on here or what seashore this is. There's something going on right behind the GU. There's like something right there. I can't really.
There's like a city there or something.
Yeah.
Clearly, I think this is like probably supposed to be Numenor, maybe. Or potentially like Harbor Town on
Numenor. Numenor would make sense. I'm not sure what though. They've messed up the whole map of Numenor too, so I don't know where it would be. They've combined Romena and the capital city. I can't remember it now. Sorry, but they've combined the cities together to be the same thing. So,
we've got horse riding.
At least she's not smiling like the Joker in this one, which is a callback.
With I assume that's Elrond beside her.
Yep.
Here she is. More horse riding. Get lots of horse riding Galadriel. There she is, looking fierce and determined. Oh, look at that. She's looking angry there at the end.
she brought her angry eyes this time.
Okay, so what is going on here? Is this a person or is this a doll?
This is the conspicuously androgynous witches. They're
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, right? Goes underwater, and then the next shot. If we look forward, we've got this
We're going.
Leviathan looking type thing here that shows up right there. Kind of funky, but you can see all the tentacles and stuff. Here's my prediction. This is them bringing the Watcher in the waters over or encouraging it or doing something in order to get it to the back doors of Moria. So in order to attack Moria, they're bringing the Watcher in the water there is what Sauron ended up doing. So if you guys
you're
don't
thinking
remember,
that's Sauron using one of those servants to bring the Watcher in the waters to Moria.
Yeah, totally. I just look at the tentacles and I'm like, why would they have this here? What part would it play? Moria does get involved in the battle against Sauron, so he would do that. That would make sense. I mean, it's not a bad idea necessarily. It's that's just my guess.
Yes, Moria actually attacks from the rear. That allows Elrond to escape back to Rivendell.
That's right. That's right.
So that would be Sauron trying to ensure that they have to basically bar their doors, right? Because that's what they indeed do.
Yeah.
So they're saying that. So your prediction here is that Sauron will place the creature there basically to isolate the dwarves from the rest of.
Or maybe since Sauron is now a shapeshifter, he turns into the Watcher in the water or something like that and goes there and closes the doors. That's not outside of the realm of possibility for them. Okay,
especially unless Sauron is still there, like he's like Voldemort now, and he's put his piece of his soul into the creature, right? Like the snake.
Hey, look, they're borrowing from everything. They're borrowing from Avengers and Venom, so who's to say they won't borrow from that too?
We have our DEI elf here, or dwarf here.
The DEISA dwarf. So one of the things I'll say, the next shot that you have here of Durin's dad, Durin, is this is perhaps the only reference to Mithril. If you guys don't remember, Mithril was the magic metal that keeps the elves safe in Middle-earth, or keeps the elves preserved in Middle-earth. They figured out that the Mithril, which was the
power.
Yes, the Mithril.
This is Rings of Power.
This is the Rings of Power, not Tolkien, right? Yes, please, don't confuse that with actual Tolkien wrote. Tolkien had nothing to say about Mithril and how it affects the elves at all. Mithril is just a really light and powerful and strong metal that the dwarves delved too deep to get in Moria. So, in any case, the whole idea that Mithril is created from a fight between some elf and a Balrog with a tree and lightning that creates veins of Mithril within Moria, and then their mind, and then this Mithril becomes the metal that probably needs to be infused into the needed to be infused into the rings to preserve the elves, right? It's like the midi-chlorians of Middle-earth. Right? It's the same sort of stupid idea that you had to give it some sort of weird backstory and reason. Even the midi-chlorians didn't have this much of a backstory. At least there was that. But in here, it's sort of silly. So seems like this might be the only call to Mithril in the entire trailer, which is a good thing because nobody really cared and thought that whole Mithril storyline was kind of lame. And remember, they had to coax it. They had to coax it into the rings. It was terrible. Anyway, so that's what this scene is something to do with Mithril, I'm guessing.
You think I think it's him looking down the place where they closed, and maybe he's being tempted by the ring because he does get it here later on, right?
Maybe. Anyway, and then here's
a battle on a rampart.
Destruction.
Or
the first something.
Is that like wings? What is that? You see wings there?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. But yeah, it's like it's a first effects shot, and the powerful dwarves who could construct anything. Their poor bridge gets destroyed in one fell swoop. Yeah, looks cool. Maybe a little bit over the top, but fine. There's apparently like some sort of fire that happens.
Do you think maybe?
Sorry, I missed that. What you said?
Yeah, sorry, I'm having connection issues here. Do you think that could be Smaug? Maybe.
Nah. No, I hope not. Okay. Nah, because that would be up in the north. I mean, if they do that, like that would be way beyond that. I don't think that's something. Or maybe it's
another dragon, right?
Or another dragon could be. I thought it was more like a part of a statue or something falling.
Okay.
Yeah. There's Elendil. The only shot we have of him looks like
Numenor.
Yeah, all those people angry that the elves are coming to take their jobs are angry at Elendil now for bringing an elf back over and going to go fight for them. So
I don't know. It looks like there's like a mass panic here. They're all trying to get somewhere. He's being shoved away. He's being turned away. Here's Galadriel again, right?
Upset again. Those angry eyes back into the scene.
In a cave.
Perhaps Perhaps like screaming. It reminds me a little bit of the last scene from the first Phantom Menace trailer where you see Obi-Wan yell no, and like the first time I saw that, I'm like, oh, that means Qui-Gon's dead. And here, maybe this is Celebrimbor dying, being chopped off or something. There is a scene later. I think there's a behind the scenes type of video they put out too that has a shot of Celebrimbor who's missing a hand at one point. His left hand, I think. It's like he's missing a hand.
Okay.
So that maybe that's some of this, but she's obviously reacting to something horrible happening, which is probably the death of Celebrimbor.
Okay. And then here's an orc.
Call back to Peter Jackson again, licking the knife.
Yeah. Which that's a good scene.
Yeah.
But again, member berries.
Yeah.
This is weird. Darkness will bind them.
I guess the rings, right? That's what they're talking about because it's the rings of power. So the darkness binds the rings, and in the darkness bind them. Okay. Sure. Okay, there are the rings.
They are.
I'm guessing so. There's Galadriel, Gil-galad, and Celebrimbor, who is not a ring carrier, but okay. Right. And what's funny is Gil-galad has the he's like, look at my bling, man. I've got 4 rings, but 3 of them aren't the important ones.
So you think they're completely erasing? Was it Círdan, the Watcher?
Círdan. Well, they certainly don't have him yet, unless that one scene we saw on because it would be a bay. Yeah, I don't know. They haven't said anything about
a lot of problems with their Gandalf guy, right?
Yeah. I'm wondering if Círdan cast in Rings of Power yet? I don't remember offhand because I don't try to do it, but yeah, Círdan was cast, so perhaps it could be Círdan there.
Okay,
but not totally sure.
So again, just to go back, it's like more of this, like I said, these still images, maybe short clips that are just kind of piled on top of each other. And as you said, there's no real understanding of what exactly is supposed to be going on here. Like, a shot of a tree here? Like, what is even going on? And then
and then they show a ring. Like they could have, like if I were doing this trailer, I would have said like, okay, what's our storyline? Our storyline is that Sauron's back. He's building an army. He has to go infiltrate the elves and create the rings. Okay, let's stick with one part of the story. Let's not even get into the big battle, but let's talk about how he consolidates his power. Let's have some shots of that. Evil's back. The armies are building. You have some shots of the orcs, some small skirmishes, things like that. And then you say, and he's in disguise or something like that. And then you show him there and you show him helping to create the rings, and you create a storyline within the trailer rather than some shots of Galadriel on horses, some wide shots of a city we don't know about on the coast of Numenor or Middle Earth. There's a lot that they did just to throw things in here that tell us nothing about it. It's like the TikTokification of trailers. Like it's all like short little blips without giving us much meat at all. Like so, and they said it right. They said, "Give me the meat and give it to me raw." Well, they gave me the meat, and it's all stringy and gamey. So
if they didn't give you any meat, they gave you the scraps.
They gave me the gristle, and that's it.
Yeah, this is like the hot dog, the leftovers that they've piled together, right?
Ground out, pulverized, and this is all you're left with.
I don't like the rings.
No,
I know Michael calls them ring pops. That's exactly what they look like to me.
Ring pops look better. Honestly, unless you get the ones that have been sitting in the sun, they kind of come out. They're kind of sticky with but
they also don't look like the rings from Peter Jackson. Like we've seen the ring on the King.
The dumb idea that like they would simply take an unshapen rock, right? They are the greatest craftsmen in Middle Earth, and they can't do anything with the stone to make it look beautiful. And it's just sort of this weird, like we're going to throw a big stone on it and it becomes some sort of magical thing, but it's not even the stone that has any power in their story. It's the metal of the ring that has mithril in it.
Yeah, it's the Witch King, not the Lich King. I'm getting my World of Warcraft and Lord of the Rings confused here. The Witch King of Angmar. We see his ring when he fights Gandalf in Return of the King. But also, I think that's a really good point that you bring up there, because I remember Tolkien talking about this in one of his letters. He specifically talks about Sauron's initial desires were actually good. He wanted to rebuild Middle Earth, but obviously he harbors this hatred of these elves. Obviously, he uses that because the elves want to rebuild it too, and the Smiths are all about like the beauty and everything like this, because they wanted that. Like that's how he convinces them as Anatar to like carry on what he's saying is his mission as this emissary of the Valar. And this is what they've crafted. What?
I don't know, man. Like, how much money did they spend on this here? And this is the best that they got out of it. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
The details matter. The details matter. I go back to that.
they
right?
do. They do. Tolkien was very clear on that. Okay, and then what is this here? What's going on here? We got some kind of
The other
boulder.
the other
Or no.
appropriate elf, like
Oh,
he
it's an
does his
elf?
whole he does his like crazy, like he's sitting inside of a
Flip.
wagon and he jumps out at a, he does a magical physically impossible thing to somehow
What? He literally jumps out of this thing.
yeah,
What?
that's what it looks like, and he destroys it and he kills, like, there's some dude on the ground there that's dead or something because of that. He's fighting back. He's been hidden in there. There's no, that's Isildur on the right, isn't it?
Is that him?
There's that Theo.
Potentially.
No, that's yeah. Well, he's a Numenorian.
Could be.
Like,
Because
yeah,
remember,
so-
he's left in the Southlands, which they're
Yeah.
clearly not in because it's Mordor. There's no ash or anything now. So they clearly left there.
yeah.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Even the Legolas snowboarding wasn't
It looked better
that
than that. Yeah.
bizarre.
Yeah, you have to give them at least some physical weight to it to make it look real, and that has none in it. But he had something else in the first series where he like did this whole crazy flip around and then fly back to kill an orc when he's imprisoned and they're trying to dig that ditch.
Yes, I do remember that with the Vorg as well.
Yeah.
I don't like this. This literally reminds me of Gondor. They literally just copied Gondor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, they don't know how to make anything new, and at least there is a like, it makes sense that they would do that. The problem is there's so much scope here, but there's never any breadth. So when you watch it, you don't understand how big this is supposed to really be. And so all your shots of the city are in tight and in close. And so the next shot we see is inside the building. There is no ability for you to actually understand how large this is. And you can see the eagle flying in. All right. So the eagle, you want to hear my
Yes.
what Michael and I seem to come to in our review of it the other day. So the
Something about the
eagle,
eagle.
right? Eagles
How
are called
Airfarazone has wings and looks angelic here.
Yeah. No. So the eagles are the heralds of Manwë. They are set on the Menel Tarma, or they are to show. Let's see. They don't even bring the Menel Tarma. There you go.
He's literally an avenging archangel.
There are some people who said that he is riding the eagle. He's not riding the eagle, from what we can tell. The eagle is most likely sent from Middle Earth as a message to the Numenorians that Sauron is taking over, and they need help to fight back against Sauron and his attack that's imminent on Eregion. So either he's there to smite the eagle or to encourage people to go to Middle Earth, right? He's a power hungry guy, so he's probably going to want to say like, hey, let's take over Middle Earth at this point. And that's probably what they're going for with his.
Well, you know what's going to happen. He's going to assuage all of the rioting Numenorians that we saw earlier, and he's going to convince them to launch a holy war against Sauron.
Yeah. Which is okay, this time is, I don't know, maybe like, well, in a way that's kind of true to the books if that were to happen. The thing is that there's no build up to this. There's no, right? We saw 5 ships there. The grand army of the Numenorians was, I think, was it 5, 3, 4? I don't even remember how many ships it was. It was not enough ships that came over. And so this is supposed to be
thousands of horses.
Right. And the only reason Sauron was defeated by the Numenorians is he looked at their army and their power and was like, nope, not even going to fight it. I'm done. And then he decides to infiltrate them and essentially over the years.
Well, his armies fled too, right?
Yeah. They were. Fled. Yeah. And so, so this is probably a messenger from Galadriel, from the elves. I would bet. Remember, though, these elves, these eagles, are the heralds of Manwë, of the chief archangel of Middle Earth in a way, right? Manwë is the chief guy there in Valinor, across the seas that we saw Galadriel trying to get to, but jump off in the middle of the ocean for some reason and swim away. But these eagles wouldn't be used as carrier pigeons. So, it's thrown in there rather than having the Numenorians already should have had a stronghold in Middle Earth at this point, and would have known about this sort of stuff. No, they're just going to make it as a member berry in order to get the eagles back into this story, even though they would not be in it at all. In fact, the eagles would be nowhere near Numenor by this point in the story.
Right. Ar-Pharazôn is actually not a politician. He is a military commander who had won a number of campaigns against Sauron's forces.
Yeah. And Muriel's cousin. They look so much alike. The family resemblance is uncanny.
Yes.
This guy who we don't care about, Theo, crying.
Oh, that's the okay. He's changed.
And then there's Isildur.
Isildur. Like again, like just is he actually supposed to be looking at him? Trailer things, but again, just two images next to each other. He's looking up. Is he supposed to be seeing this? I don't think so, because this is the
and this is the shot that should matter to us. Where is this attack coming from? Who's attacking who? They don't even lead up and give us a framework in order to understand what is going on here. And they could have had the trailer come to this point and go like, oh my gosh, there's going to be a big battle at the end. This is what it's going to lead to. But we just get a cool special effects scene that they were able to finish in time for this trailer that doesn't have any sort of lead up to it for us to give any point of reference to what is actually happening here.
Yeah, exactly. So for anyone who hasn't actually read Tolkien or understands what's going on here, read the Silmarillion or anything, they don't really understand that, or watched even the movies. They don't understand that Sauron has no army.
I know.
Like, because he doesn't have an army. Like the whole thing is that Adar killed him, and now he's the leader of the orcs, and he doesn't like Sauron.
Yeah.
So Sauron is just by himself entering Mordor, has 0 allies. That's even in kind of their description that they put on the trailer here, that he has no allies.
Yeah.
But the trailer doesn't say that at all.
They have backed themselves in such a weird narrative corner that extricating themselves is going to be probably even weirder than how they back themselves into it. Because he doesn't have an army. The rings were created in the improper order. It's all just so odd that they don't know how to write. There you go. There's a new Adar.
Yeah, that's the new. Is that how you say it? Adar, not Adar.
Adar. I don't know. I don't remember. But yeah, it's a new actor. The other guy quit and was like, "This doesn't make sense."
I still think they did a pretty good job. He's still like.
I think he was the best character actually, which is funny, because they weren't trying to make anything. He was more interesting than others, and I didn't find it like improper to have that kind of a character who was essentially, because orcs are supposed to be misshapen elves, or I don't know what's the best word for it.
Tortured,
twisted. There you go, twisted elves, right? And he's half twisted, which is kind of cool. It's kind of interesting. It would make for an interesting storyline that somebody who's conflicted because he was half twisted or something like that.
He's twisted physically, spiritually, and emotionally.
Yeah. My favorite scene.
Oh, there he is.
There he is. Not Gandalf. Not Gandalf.
Oh,
I don't know.
Here? He's Moses
again.
He's Moses hitting the ground to summon water.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, he had best shot. This is the only shot we get of the hobbits in the Harfeet, the dirty little sociopaths who leave their injured family on the road as they trek to their next location. Right.
Thank you for pointing that out. Because if you didn't, I was going to. This is like Tolkien considered himself a hobbit, someone who likes to enjoy his food, take care in like the small pleasures of life, your beer, your garden. And how do these people depict them? As insane lunatics that if you break your hand, they leave you as a snack for the wolves.
That's right. Oh man, that's so great. But here, maybe this, she's going to die. That would be pretty cool. Like where they're going to get rid of them all in one sort of cool Gandalf tornado. I don't know, but this is the only shot, and it shows that if this is the only shot we got of the Harfoots, as they call them, that it shows how little confidence they have in showing them in this very first trailer. If people cared about them, they would have shown more of them, but nobody cares about the storyline. Nobody cares about.
Remember how they were like totally selling them to us in the first season? Like, you have to have hobbits in a Lord of the Rings story. They're essential.
I know.
It's like, here's Tolkien. There are no hobbits in the Second Age.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, all right. So there's that. Great. Again, we'd have no point of reference here. She's Galadriel fighting again. Wonderful. She's got a cool burning.
She's got flaming arrows.
I don't know. And notice every shot of Galadriel is of her fighting, of her doing something. She is nowhere near the Galadriel Tolkien.
She has the same face too. This like angry, squinty face.
She's not a happy person. And then there's some sort of big explosion here from all the orcs around, I guess. Don't know what's, again, no point of reference. I don't believe that was her arrow that caused that explosion. That's for sure. Oh, look.
He's got armor now.
He's got armor.
He looks like a general.
Kind of.
And he's kind of war-torn. He's dusty.
He's like a Metro general.
Do you think they just copied what they did from the first season here with this cavalry charge?
Yeah,
This is clearly him attacking Sauron's forces, I would assume, at Eregion.
Yeah.
This makes no sense.
I guess he's probably going to try and destroy the rings, and they don't actually get destroyed. They don't burn up in the fires or something like that. Okay. That's the only thing I can think of. Even though it's, as far as I know, I don't believe there's any other point in the histories of Middle-earth that mentions this. That only the One Ring would needed to be destroyed in the fires of Mount Doom, not the others, because that's where it was forged. Whereas these ones were forged in Ost-in-Ethel and Eregion and would have been able to be destroyed otherwise. But that's my guess. He's trying to destroy them, or maybe he does destroy them, then they're remade. Who knows?
Or do you think that they're going to say that there were more than 9 and he destroyed some and Sauron got the others?
Oh my gosh. I hope not, John. That would be so sad.
Because I was going to, like, how many are there? 1, 2,
17.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I only see 7.
Oh, in there. Oh, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
maybe
6.
8.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Hard to tell.
They've screwed up the rings already. That it'll be fun to see how they screwed up even further. Oh, and then here
is Sauron.
He's looking mighty healthy.
Fairest form. His fairest form.
This is Anatar, his fair form that Tolkien did talk about. Although I will say Tolkien never he said he was an emissary of Valinor, which could make him an elf, but they never said he was an elf. Although I think Galadriel, she was always suspicious of him in the books, is what Tolkien wrote, and so she was his biggest detractor in the books. She never fell in love with him. She never spent any time with him. She just didn't trust him at all. Whereas the other elves who were craftsmen, because he was a craftsman, right? And he was still, like, we go back to the Silmarillion, he was jealous of Feanor, the greatest craftsman in all of Middle Earth and the whole cosmology there. And so that's why he was able to get in with the craftsmen, the ring makers in Eregion. But yeah, this is him here. This is his. Why is he the only elf with long hair at this point too? Oh, like blonde hair, I guess. The wig, man. The wig is awesome. They spent millions.
It looks like Celebrimbor is there. Is that him over there?
Oh yeah, that's where he's missing his hand.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's like Luke Skywalker over there.
This is where he's going to take him. I guess this is where he's taken, and then he does his little hand motion, and then we get to the other shot, which doesn't actually relate.
Yeah, we just jump here. He does his little thing, and then it switches over.
Yeah, it's okay. That's crazy. That's even that's the shot. All right, so go ahead. So he does that little thing. So there's some explosion here. There's some people say Barad-dûr, and after looking at it more, it seems to me like it's the ice wastes of Forodwaith, which is what we saw in the very first episode. The tower that Galadriel went to defeat the ice troll without breaking a sweat.
So you think they're going back before the first season?
I think it's a flashback.
I
just think it's stupid. Like they show evil power by insta creation, right? So he's instantly creating a cold waste up here. They instantly created Mordor. It's a lazy way of creating the appearance of power, and I find it just laughable. Like that.
I think it's also contrary to how Tolkien depicts evil too. I mean, I think it's like obviously wildly misparaphrased all over social media, where he says like evil cannot create; it can only like twist and warp. Yeah. It's basically what Frodo tells Sam, right, when he's talking about the orcs.
Yeah, good point.
Towards the end of Return of the King, and it takes time. You don't instantly. I mean, aside from aside from angels choosing that they're going to reject God, usually you devolve into this kind of evil pit over time.
Right. Right. And let's not forget, Sauron began construction on Barad-dûr in year 1000 of the Second Age. So Mordor was already there. The reason he chose Mordor is it was already a wasteland. He didn't create the wasteland in there. And then in the year 1500, 500 years after Barad-dûr was created is when the Rings of Power actually forged. So it takes that long for something to actually actually happen, right? It is a long process. He's slowly taking over. And I think, like, because the elves are long lived, I don't understand why the Rings of Power couldn't have made that a central part of it, is like the time it takes for evil, and show it creeping on the land and the battles that it takes. And they could have shown how Adar essentially had become a twisted elf at some point. Like, they could have gone through that process, but they cram it all down 1,000 years into a few seasons. It's unforgivable, like, because it's so poorly done.
And I also like that you can see that this growing power of evil rises because you maybe lack some leadership, lack people to truly fight back against it. I mean, obviously, the Numenorian story is amazing in that sense.
Yeah.
With Ar-Pharazôn and things like that, and how he's actually like ends up thinking he's going to master it, and he ends up becoming a slave to it, right?
Yeah,
He thinks he's
that's right. Actually, I'm just getting my numbers right here, and I keep saying 1,000 years because that's a nice whole number, but it's actually 2,300 years from the creation of Barad-dûr to the downfall of Numenor. 2,300 years. That's what they're compressing.
I always thought that they could have just followed what Tolkien wrote, split it up into their 5 seasons, done kind of what he laid out. I mean, it's all there. You could have you have the Numenor storyline. I almost think that could be 2 seasons. You have the Rings of Power storyline. There's all kinds of political intrigue and things that they could have done by still following what Tolkien wrote in the Silmarillion, in the Unfinished
even
Tales.
In the appendices. Yeah, it's the timeline is laid out there. They didn't have to like compress it like they needed to. They didn't have to have the Silmarillion to do it. They can just use what was there. But
they wrote there's clearly all kinds of political intrigue in Eregion too, because we see that Sauron is able to like manipulate Celebrimbor and the Smith Guild that he leads to drive Galadriel out of the city. She does indeed leave and goes to Lorendale, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I saying that right? And then there's other things where she like goes back. Yeah, Lorined, thank you. And then she goes back to like the sea at one point, and there's all kinds of interesting dynamics that you could have done there, and that obviously leads up to Sauron's attacks, because there could even be him like obviously still like maybe he's there in Eregion posing as this this emissary of the Valar, while he's also maybe still trying to gather his forces too in Mordor. And potentially like starting to test the actual borders there. So there's all kinds of like interesting things that they could have done that they just absolutely failed to do because they thought they could write the book that Tolkien never wrote, despite him actually, I guess, somewhat writing it, obviously being published by his son, Christopher, and then edited in the Unfinished Tales. And it's just a shame that they chose to reject Tolkien in order to follow their own image. But it's interesting. They're almost following the path of Ar-Pharazôn. Like we said, they thought they could master it, and they've become a slave to it now.
Oh, yeah. There's very little hope left for this here after watching this trailer. And I'm certainly looking more forward to see what actually Philippa Boyens and Andy Serkis and Peter Jackson can do with The Hunt for Gollum. Even though we already know that story, at least they have some sort of. There's more confidence in what they might bring to the table than what we've seen in the Rings of Power. So I'm hoping more for that and War of the Rohirrim. But
so final question here: what are your predictions? I know we talked about some of them already, but what are your kind of like final predictions for this season as far as like story wise? Where do you think they go here?
Well, I think it's probably going to end with Celebrimbor dying. They have to focus on that, right? They show him there at the last shot of Sauron is him attacking Celebrimbor, and Celebrimbor already missing a hand. So that I would imagine that would be the driving force behind it. Very little time spent on Numenor. So, but who's to know, right? The first season was so disjointed between the 3 different primary storylines that they really need to, if they have any hope of making this cohesive, they need to pare those down and bring them together in order to make it much more understandable, so that we understand, like, there is no relationship between the hobbits and anything else that's going on after what are 10 episodes that we had. There was nothing. So their goal needs to be bring the stories together to make it work, even though they've shown they don't know how to do that with what they've got yet. But my prediction is that probably season ends with Celebrimbor dying, and that shot of Galadriel yelling is her seeing his dead body. That's my guess.
And what do you expect audience reaction will be? Similar to the first season, where we see 63% of people did not finish the show?
Well, I think a higher percentage of people will finish the show because a lower percentage of people will start watching it. So very few people, the only people watching it are people reviewing it on YouTube. And for some reason, some people who still like this. There are people out there who love any implementation of Tolkien in media, right? They are there for it all the time, no matter what.
No matter how far it strays from Tolkien, if it's somewhat adjacent to him, they'll be there.
Yeah. We interviewed, I can't remember his name, but we interviewed an author of a book called Tolkien in the 21st Century.
Yes, I remember.
And he said, I love any adaptation, and we agreed to disagree. They're like, I don't. I want it to be excellent. I want it to be good. Like, he thought the 1960s were awesome when everybody was trying all this other stuff with Tolkien. He was there at the time, and that's a certain perspective to take. I just find that watering it down with kind of crappy implementations of Tolkien's world is not doing anybody any favors. I'd rather have great Tolkien instead of a lot of Tolkien, right? That's my approach.
Yeah, I think Tolkien would want to have great stuff too. I mean, his essay on fairy stories, I think, is so excellent when it comes to that. Is if you don't stay true to your rules, you don't create that sub-creation, you don't actually create that, people will, even if you can't even like if you get to the point where you can't even suspend your disbelief anymore, all you see is this abortive creation. And I think that's where a lot of people are with a lot of different properties, because they aren't following the rules that Tolkien has kind of laid out. It's not even like his rules that he created, right? It's just kind of the rules that he's observed on how sub-creation actually works. And I just wanted to point out, to your point here, as I said at the top of the stream here, where the current trailer, season 2, has 5.7 million total views, 380,000 dislikes already, and 75,000 likes. You can see it right here, right there, 5.791. And then if we look at the first season, the trailer has 17 million views, 73,000 likes, and 768,000 dislikes. So remember, this was almost 2 years ago, August 2022.
Yeah.
So the one good thing the second season trailer does have more likes, but those dislike counter is probably outpacing the dislike counter here for the first season, and then the view count is massively down, which I think goes to show that people are kind of just checked out altogether.
And this, I think, is the final trailer. We're supposed to get one more trailer, I think, for the Rings of Power. You'd imagine we would, probably Comic-Con or something like that, like they did last year. And so I bet that one will be downvoted similarly as well.
Probably, yes. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jonathan, for joining us. Where can people find your expert Lord of the Rings analysis?
Well, thanks. Well, we do a podcast every week called Exploring Tolkien. So just look for the words Exploring Tolkien anywhere, and you'll find us. Or just go to exploringtolkien.com. That'll get you straight to the podcast. We're also at theonering.com. We've been doing that for 25 years, since the announcement for the Peter Jackson film. So check us out there. Listen to the podcast, and we'll try and be posting more news about anything that's coming out with all the upcoming films and games and all that sort of stuff on our channel as we kind of ramp that up over the next few months too. So thanks for having me, John.
All right. Thank you for joining me. Have a good one.
Take care. Bye.